Welcome, my dear viewer, to Dr. Paul M. Kibicho, PhD, QB, HSC official YouTube channel. This particular evening, I'm very devastated because I've seen young Kenyans lose their lives. They have lost their lives as they agitated for their rights. And what has brought forth this kind of horrendous and humongous damage? It is purely because of this, the so-called finance bill. I tend to think that dialogue would suffice in every given situation, no matter how the situation is. I think lending years would have solved many problems. I have seen some of our members of parliament talking and casting aspersions to young ones, some of them even in the house, contributing in the house and purporting to be experts in various fields and saying that whatever we were being shown on social media and TV were just but creation of some human beings. It is quite unfortunate when we have irresponsible leadership. I'm calling upon our leaders to ensure that they pay attention to details. They pay attention to our sons and daughters. They pay attention to when people are actually lacing up issues. I tend to think the amount of money that we have lost in our today's economy is much higher than what finance bill would have brought on the table if everything was left to go the way it was supposed to. If members of parliament, especially those proposing those who are actually pro bill, came to their senses and listened to the ground, I think things would not have gone the way they have gone today. I have watched the news from morning and I have seen that some people have lost their lives. You can imagine a parent losing his daughter or his son, all in the name of a finance bill. Parents are suffering the brunt of this economy. Parents are complaining. Wherever you go, parents are complaining. We have our sons and daughters at home when those old men and women are still serving this government. It is quite unfortunate. It is quite unfortunate. I tend to think it is the high time that if I hit 60 years, I must be ready to retire, no matter how good I am. There is no justification whatsoever for old men and women to be serving in this government when we have got so many young men and women who are jobless. I think it is the high time we took a bit. We retreated and went to our normal, or rather, we go to our factory settings and we listen together. It is very, very unfortunate. So I'm calling our leadership. We have our president with us. We have our deputy president with us. It is the high time that they listen to what Kenyans are saying. It is quite unfortunate. I can't even try to imagine when these news are broken to the parents who have lost their children all in the name of the finance bill. It is quite unfortunate that sometimes our thinking capacity gets altered by other extraneous variables as opposed to having what we call the power of intuition, where reasoning should suffice. Anyway, let me not go deeper into that because it is hitting me hard. I can't imagine parents having lost their children in the skirmishes. It is quite unfortunate. Our daughters and sons, they were not armed. They had no ammunition on their hearts. They were not carrying anything that could have actually resulted to that kind of a bloodshed. Anyway, let me talk matters economy. I hope that my talking on this particular social media platform will be taken by men and women who are rational in thinking. My position on how to revive our economy. Number one, we must stop further borrowing. We must stop further borrowing because this borrowing is the one that is bringing problems. We need to live within our means as a nation. I have been telling people, and I'm going to teach the basic principles of economics, very basic principles of economics. Because if I become very complicated, maybe the intended users of this information will not be able to internalize and use it to help this nation go to the next level. One of the fundamental basic principles of economics is that we must learn to live within our means. I do not see the need for the government to go budgeting for 3.6 or 3.9 trillion shillings, whereas the government is only capable of collecting 2.4 trillion shillings. Where will the 1.2 trillion shillings come from? It therefore means that we shall continually borrow. And the more we borrow, the more we continually dig more economic holes that will still put us into this palpable situation. So for my advice is this, going forward, if we are preparing any budget, can we actually live within our means? It doesn't make any sense to continually borrow. You hear something they refer to as all the time. They have what we, it's quite unfortunate because our budget has always been debt funded. Why should we continually have supplementary budget? Why can't we budget what we have? As when we have personally have been allowed for quite some time. So one of the things that we must stop doing as a nation, and I'm requesting the president and the deputy president, I know they have got economists who sometimes are referred to as the think tank. And I wonder what kind of think tank they are, because if I were there, I would bring a dissenting voice. I would categorically state matters as they are. There is no beauty, there is no elegance in borrowing money. And I'm going to mention some few things here that is not going to be very popular, but I'm not going to mind. I have to speak my mind. If this finance bill was well thought out, when they brought the budget, when they brought what we call the budget policy statement, they ought to have known that we have actually been riding, or we have been running our recurrent expenditure on borrowed money. There is nothing in economics as dangerous as actually financing a recurrent expenditure account. What do I mean by a recurrent expenditure account? These are the financial obligations that you do on monthly basis. Therefore, it therefore means if I'm funding or financing this particular recurrent expenditure, it means it will become perpetual. It will become perpetual, meaning that I'll be borrowing every time because I have to meet these particular financial obligations. So I wonder, where is the rationale of the people who advise our government? Who are those people who claim to be CPAKs? Who are those people who claim to be professors in economics and they are not telling the president the way things are? This is what has made some of us people to be out there, because we are nondescript when it comes to the Kenyan government. But it has to be said, we must speak it out, we must call it out. If it means compromising our positions, let the truth be told. Let the truth be told. Thank you very much, Madam Lesho. So desperate times calls for desperate measures. I wonder, why should our members of parliament are the highly paid members of parliament? I wish they were the highly qualified and competent people in the globe to warrant them to become the highly paid members of parliament. I know some people will say that Kebisho is talking like this because he's not a member of parliament. No, I'm speaking on on my capacity as a Kenyan and as a scholar, and I'm not going to subscribe to what we call the periphery of mediocrity. I'm not going to go and argue like other pedestrians out there. I'm saying desperate times calls for desperate measures. Our members of parliament are being paid over 1 million Kenyan shillings. Why are they being paid 1 million Kenyan shillings? Where is the rationale? Where is the justification? If now we have already lost many young men and women who could have maybe have helped this nation to grow in terms of economy. Now they are dead. Now they are going to be put into the morgue. They are going to become a pain to their parents because they have lost their lives as they clamor for what we call rejection of this finance bill. I wish we had men and women who could have said, when we talk about austerity measures that I'll be mentioning thereafter, our members of parliament should be paid less than 250,000 Kenya shillings. If a whole professor who has taught in a university for more than 35 years, who has actually made many men and women to be doctors, to be engineers, to be whatever it is today, earns less than 300,000 shillings. What is so special about members of parliament that they require to be paid 1.2 million Kenya shillings? What is their contribution to this economy other than lacking havoc to it? Actually, as a matter of fact, the hands of our members of parliament are dripping with the blood of those men, young men and women that we have lost, our daughters and sons. So the salaries of members of parliament, if you are going to revive our economy, I'm calling upon the government of the day to ensure that the salaries are slashed. If I were the one, if I had the ability and the capacity to do that, I would even recommend, we have got some bodies that already exist in books. What is the SRC doing? Members of parliament should not have the honors, they should not have the mandate to dictate how much they ought to be paid. Salaries and Remuneration Commission should be given full power and mandate. And they say and they stick to their guns. We are going to pay members of parliament 250,000 shillings. It is either you take it or you leave it. You can imagine how much money we can save. Let me first of all do a very simple mathematics here. For those people who, we are not joking. Time has come for us people to be serious. It has pained me. I have seen men who have been shot, young men. We assume we have got 349 members of parliament. You multiply by 1 million shillings each, having not put the allowances. So that is a whooping 349 million Kenya shillings. Now add what we call the benefits, add the studying allowance, add the sitting allowance, the dressing allowance, the rhetoric allowance, they earn over 1.2 million, 1.3 more, 4 million Kenya shillings. What is it for? What is it for? Why are they being paid like so? I'm asking this question as a scholar. Why are they being paid that much? And they sit in parliament and they pass bills that are totally unpalatable so that they can continually milk the cow dry, who is mwananchi like me. We pay a lot of taxes. So I'm asking, I wish whoever hears, I wish whoever implements this, our members of parliament must have their salaries slashed. There should be no sitting allowance. The salary must remain the same, even as people we teach in the universities and others work in different sectors of our economy. We do not get paid for studying or for sitting allowance. We only get our salary. Why are they so special? And how special are they anyway? When some of them talk what we call unprintable epithets, when some of them suffer from verbal diarrhea, I'm advocating as an economist that our members of parliament should only earn a salary, no more benefits. They should not be given mortgages. They should not be given car loans. Where are they being given car loans? Why isn't it that teacher? Why a teacher who taught them to become the members of parliament that they are? Why aren't the teachers being given those car loans? Why aren't the teachers being given those mortgages? They take mortgages on their loans. And those loans, so members of parliament should already be paid a salary. They go looking for their own homes. They go looking, identifying their mortgage provider services without us being taxed more to sustain their lavish lifestyle. Members of parliament should not be paid what we call allowances. Why should they be paid allowances? Why should they be paid for mileage? Who pays for us? Who pays for us Kenyans? When I drive my car from point A to point B, who pays my mileage allowance? Nobody. So they should only be given their salaries. And their salaries should be made so unpopular so that the only people who go there, they are men and women who mean well for this nation. At the moment, these are the people who have been enjoying the national cake at the expense of our lives, at the expense of our patient, of our old or aging parents, among other government institutions. So I'm advocating that the government must ensure that the salaries of members of parliament, the salaries are slashed. There is no allowances whatsoever of any nature. Even if there's no per diem, no allowance. They survive on their salaries only. They survive on their salaries only. Other employees in other sectors, they only survive on their allowances. Why are they so special in the first place? Why are we treating them so special when they have reached this ultimate pinnacle of our Kenyan people losing their lives, our young daughters and sons losing their lives, or in the name of them not being rational in their thinking? Anyway, let me not go far. Why all state and public officers who are being paid a lot of money in terms of salaries, they must decide whether to have their salaries reduced or whether to go home early. The other thing is this: when it comes, why should they? I have always wondered. I saw a certain county government taking the MCAs to Kigali for what we call benchmarking in terms of dairy farming. When Kiambu County happens to have the best dairy farming practices, Githogori dairy is a perfect example where many countries come to learn. And you see members of County Assembly taking a flight to go to Kigali for benchmarking. They were not going to benchmark. They were going out there to get what we call per diem, to get what we call the traveling allowances, to milk Wajiko the more. So they don't care. They no longer care. This nation is God for himself, man for himself, but God for us all. It pains me to the core. So I'm saying there is no need of this The other day, the president spoke about austerity measures. You know, the problem with our system is that we only speak, but we don't activate what we say. They were talking about austerity measures. When His Excellency, the fourth president of the Republic of Kenya, was in that particular state house, he talked about austerity measures. The only thing that we see every year during budget time is that Passat car being driven, the CS finance being driven in it. After that, it is parked again to wait for another budget. They were supposed to be driving those small cars, the Passats. It was actually an exercise for public. It was public relations exercise. They are driving gasolers. I was surprised to hear there's the CS, Moses Kuria, saying that he was surprised to fly to Mombasa only to find that his driver was there, his bodyguard was there. Already the car was driven from here. And you know it's a fuel gasoline. To go and receive the CS, Moses Kuria, it is actually in public domain. I can be taken nowhere. I'm a lawyer. And even if I'm taken wherever I'll be taken, I have got a litany of lawyers. Anyway, so the question is this. And I heard him say, when he asked for the justification for the driver to drive the car all the way to Mombasa to receive him, they said this guy has not been able, the whole of this month, he has not received any per diem. Who pays us our per diem? Who said, I'm coming to taxes shortly? Anyway, it pains me to the core. I'm feeling bad. I'm even shedding my tears because I have already seen men, young men. I have photographs of those young men here who have passed on because of the finance bill. Oh, and to you, let me tell you, God is not a respecter of personalities. None. I can speak here in a prophetic way that those people who have caused the death of those young men and women, they will never go to the grave having not paid for their mistakes. We can't start this. It is too much. And I'm calling out the leadership of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency, President William Ruto, and his Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, to crack the whips now. It is the high time they listen to the people. They do not lead oceans. They do not lead seas. They do not lead trees. They lead human beings. And when human beings say enough is enough, they should listen to those voices. Oh my goodness, it is so painful. It is so painful that we have lost men and women because of finance bill. Well, the other thing is that we require to reform our public service sector. We must reform our public service sector. I have had some people in some quarters saying that there is a lot of duplication of laws. Why should we have, for instance, let me ask, why should even a governor, why should he be allocated 8 officers, police officers or GSU officers? Does it mean that their lives become so precious than ours? I'm not proud, but I'm saying, I wonder, when they leave those particular positions, do they have a special life? Do they have a golden life? And in our case, we have what we call a molten solid soil life. We all have the same life. There is no point. Why should they have 8 people to guard them? Why should we have 8 officers to guard them? Why should they be provided with newspapers? Why should they be given flowers? Yet we are talking about austerity measures. No way. We require to reform the public service sector. I have had in a forum where the president was and the deputy president was, where they said some people occupying some senior government positions have got fake degrees. When we have got so many Gen Zs out there with genuine degrees, I'm a lecturer in the university. I know the students that I have taught who are actually tarmacking when others are enjoying huge parks when they are carrying fake papers. What is the government doing? Well, I read today, this is so sad. I saw that the head of public service here saying, I was so surprised. I'm not even getting the newspaper. It is paining me. Now look at today's heading. State launches crackdown on fraudulent certificates. Who are those people who brought those individuals on board? Who onboarded them in the first place? They should also we define them in law as accomplices. They ought to have done their due diligence to have known those people who came with what we call fake certificates. We have seen some very senior even governors whose certificates are questionable and they are still leading us. Are we having shortage of men and women? Where has our integrity gone? No way. This is terrible. This is pathetic. Quite unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. We must reform the public sector. We must have men and women who qualify to be in those offices. What about corruption? How many cases of corruption? I have been wondering, why is the Auditor General giving us the figures of money that is missing in various government sectors? Why is he telling us we as public, we do not have any prosecutorial powers? We can't prosecute those people. They should be given to the relevant offices. They should be prosecuted. And they should not only be prosecuted, whatever they have gotten through corrupt deals must be seized by the government and of course returned back to the state, and they should be languishing in jail. Where are they? People are buying justice in Kenya today because all those people involved in corrupt deals. I was supposed to read in the newspaper the other day that the former governor of Migori, Okoth Obando, that he only returned 200 good assets worth 200 million Kenya shillings out of the questionable amount of 2 billion Kenya shillings. What are we encouraging? What are we saying? It is the high time the government cracked its whip. And it is the high time that we actually allowed the independent offices to operate independently. When we talk about, we have got three arms of government. We have the judiciary. The judiciary must be allowed to execute their mandate without any interruption, without interference. When it comes to what we call parliament, parliament must be given its old role without actually the influence and the interference by the executive. Because it is this issue of not being able to separate the distinctive offices, independent offices, that we have actually come to this far. So corruption, we must crush corruption. We do not require to tax Kenyans more money. No. I'll be talking about taxing. I have no problem with taxation, but the taxation must follow the 5 principles that I'll be talking about maybe later on. So can we crush corruption? Can we look at those economic sectors that we can be able to finance and spur our economy? What is said the government can do to ensure that we spur our locally established industries so that our young men and women can get jobs? When we talk about embracing what we implement, when we talk about austerity measures, what are we talking about? Austerity measures is not only by mouth. Austerity measures means we cannot. I have been seeing that the government the other day, I remember the other day, I think 2 months ago, the judiciary, they went to Dubai for their seminar. You wonder, does movement from Nairobi to Dubai make them better judicial officers? At the expense of an ailing economy. Oh my goodness. At an expense of an ailing economy. Our economy is bleeding. Then they have the luxury. Imagine they have the latitude. They can decide to go to Dubai so that they can earn higher per diems, so that they can spend more money from the exchequer at the expense of an ailing economy. This must stop. This must stop. This must stop. I'm joining Gen Z. I'm joining Gen Z. I have got the Gen Z in my house. I even have got Alpha, but I'm saying the government must now categorically stand on the ground. Anybody who is corrupt to be put where he belongs. Any asset acquired through false malpractices must be acquired by the government, seized by the government, and returned to the government, and the government must now become serious. You can imagine how much money we have lost today. Leave alone even the properties that have been destroyed. What about the lives? Who will bring back the lives of those young men and women whom we have lost today? I'm feeling so bad about it. Honestly speaking, I do not want to imagine. I do not want even to put myself into the shoes of those parents who encourage their children to go out only to be brought a dead son or a dead daughter. It is so painful. It's painful. I can't imagine. I can't imagine a member of parliament standing on the floor when millions of young men and women are out there lamenting that their parents have suffered enough and they can't listen. Now we have lost young men and young women. The question, what will be done for those young men and women to be brought back to life? Or in the name of a finance bill, all in the name of people, as it has been allegedly said, because of 2 million Kenya shillings. The bribes, it's quite unfortunate. Allow me first of all to bring this show to an end.